Hello, BookTube. I'm Peg, and welcome to my series on in Tome Talk November, where I'm going through different tomes from my shelves and in other places that I'm suggesting or thinking about for the Tome Topple Challenge. That's coming up in the last 2 weeks of November, where many booktubers are planning to read as many as 5 tomes. That's a book over 500 pages in that length of time and report on them. So I'm spending the time until then going over different tomes and thinking about possibilities and making suggestions. Okay, first book today is a newly published book. I was alerted by my library, which I had this on hold yesterday, that it was available, and so I rushed down to get it. And I was so surprised because I thought it wasn't supposed to be published until November 7th, next week. So I don't know, somehow maybe libraries get copies ahead of time, but whatever, yay library. Anyway, it's the story of the Russian Revolution told through the eyes of a young woman living in St. Petersburg. And it has had much acclaim here on BookTube and in other pre-published articles, etc. And I think is on many booktubers' TBR lists for next month. It's by Janet Fitch, who wrote The White Oleander in 2006, which was an Oprah's pick and also a movie. And since then, over 10 years, Janet Fitch has been working and researching to write this book. I read an excellent interview with her just yesterday from the Goodreads, what do they call it, magazine or report, I don't know. But I'm giving a link to that article at the bottom here because it really was a very informative interview about how she goes about researching it and actually even lived in Russia for a while. So this is a very strong possibility that it might end up on my actual Tome Topple list come November 17th. Okay, I have often said that I like to get my history through historical fiction. It goes down a little easier. But if I'm going to be reading that about the Russian Revolution, I thought I needed to know a little bit about the Russian Revolution before I read it, to get more out of it. So in addition to reading several Wikipedia articles, I got this book, which has also been recently published, The House of the Government. Again, I'll let you read the author's name. This is actually a nonfiction work, and it deals with the house of government that it's referring to was a huge apartment complex built in Moscow during the 1930s, over 500 residences and theaters and, just really up-to-date, swanky place. And it was across the river from the Kremlin, and it was to house the workers from the Kremlin and their families. Quite a la-di-da place. Anyway, and they lived there until Stalin's purges, when many of them were taken out or kicked out or I'm sure killed. And it's done with a lot of letters and diaries and pictures and that kind of thing. So it really looks like the kind of nonfiction I could get into. Well, there's some pictures anyway. So this is a strong possibility, though. It's so long. If I'm going to read it, I need to get it started earlier than it might take longer than that. So anyway, I thought this was quite interesting. Well, we're talking about Russia. I hadn't planned to do 2 on Russia, but I do have my Asian necklace on today, you noticed. I thought I'd go talk about 2 other, actually modern Russian classics that I found on my shelves. And talk about them a little. The first one is Life and Faith. Life and Fate. I think I can probably actually pronounce this guy's name, Grossman. It deals with World War II and the effect on people, and it's a large saga about actually one family that's spreads across Europe. So he has a chance to describe situations in many different parts of Europe, the dark forces that were there during that time. It supposedly has the same structure, or loosely based on the same structure, as War and Peace, which of course dealt with different wartime. So I thought that was a quite interesting fact. And it was when it was written in the 1950s, but it was suppressed or confiscated by the KGB for 20 years, and they actually, it made them so nervous, the portrait it presented of the Times, Life and Times there, that they not only confiscated the manuscripts, but also the typewriter ribbons that were used to type it, I understand. Anyway, so it was actually finally published here in 1980s, and on this one, the New York Times calls it arguably the greatest Russian novel of the 20th century. Okay, one more here. We have Children of the Arbat, and again, you can read the author for yourself. This one, again, was suppressed for like 20 years after it was written by the KGB or the government, and finally published and translated in the 1980s. And it deals with Stalin's purges and the horrible atmosphere and the effect on people. The Children of the Arbat that it refers to is a group of intellectuals and artists that live in a section in Moscow called the Arbat. And so we have some individual characters there. It has on it by a blurb by Time magazine that calls it the most important work of fiction by a Soviet author since Dr. Zhivago. So this one looks like it might be quite interesting. Okay, that's it for the tomes for today. As always, I'll be back later. Bye.